Hello friends, welcome to a new chapter. In this chapter we are going to learn about placental hormones. So what are the placental hormones? We have beta HCG, human placental lactogen, progesterone, estrogen, human chorionic thyrotropin, pregnancy associated glycoprotein and pregnancy associated plasmaprotein A. These are the placental hormones that are available. So first we will learn a few points about estrogen. So if you see estrogen is a C18 compound. That means it has 18 carbon atoms. Okay, this estrogen can be present in our body, has three forms. One is estradiol, which is present in reproductive age group. We have estriol, which is present in pregnancy. Esterone, which is E1 type, which is present in menopause. So estradiol is present in reproductive age group, estriol is present in pregnancy, menopause we have estrone. So how to remember it? See, estradiol A, estriol I, esterinol E. You can remember this way, or see, there is one more, yeah. Estradiol A comes first, so it is in reproductive age group. Estriol after reproduction, there will be pregnancy, so I comes under pregnancy, and esterone O for menopause. Okay, estradiol for reproductive age group, estriol for pregnancy, and estrone is present in menopausal age group. Now what is the potency? Because during pregnancy, maintaining of pregnancy, everything is important, so obviously the potency is highest to the one which is pregnancy is by progesterone, and it is most common, estradiol is most common in potency. So order of potency is first estradiol, followed by estrone, followed by estriol, because in pregnancy we have less estrogen and pregnancy is mainly a progesterogenic state, right? Then what is the most specific in pregnancy? In pregnancy we see E3 type is most specific in pregnancy, that is most specificity is E3. But what is maximum in pregnancy? Maximum in pregnancy is also E2 is maximum in pregnancy. Then if you see E1, this E1 is produced by aromatization of androgens in the ovary and peripheral sites, that is in skin, muscles and adipose tissue. With the help of the aromatization of androgens, we get this E1, which is in menopause, because during menopause ovaries are atrophied, so as a result ovaries cannot produce estrogen. So the estrogen that one has in during the menopause is due to the aromatization of androgens. Then if you see indicators, indicator of maternal and fetal well-being in pregnancy is E3. E3 is the one which indicates the maternal and fetal well-being during pregnancy. Then E3, if you see, this is also important. E3 is 1 by 100th time as biologically active as E2. E1 is 1 by 10th time as biologically active than E2. Okay, so this is one thing which you should remember. And okay, next. Okay, next if you see the source, estrogen is mainly derived from the granulosa cells, theca cells, placenta and corpus luteum. Granulosa cells mainly gives E2, whereas theca cells gives E1 and placenta gives E3 and corpus luteum gives E2. Though you don't remember which type of insulin, at least remember the sites where estrogen is produced. Then if you see the state of the estrogen, if you see 1% of estrogen is in free form. Okay, the rest all is present in the bound form. So most commonly estrogen is present in bound form, which is bound to either sex hormone binding globulin, which is 69%, and albumin 30%. So around 69% is bound to sex hormone binding globulin and 1% is bound to albumin. So 30% is bound to albumin. The remaining 1% is in free state. Now what is the action of estrogen? Estrogen action is it helps in proliferation of endometrium during uterus. It helps in growth of uterus in non-pregnant state. So it helps in one way or the other growth of uterus. Next, action on vagina. On vagina, if you see which cells will predominate in estrogen, under estrogen influence, superficial cells of vagina predominate and thus results in high karyopyknotic index. During in the vagina, action of vagina, superficial cells will predominate, and that will result in high karyopyknotic index of vagina. Then action on the fallopian tube, if you see fallopian tube, it increases the motility and decreases the secretion. Action on salt and water, it causes retention of salt and water. Then in the cervix, it produces cervical mucus which is copious. The cervical mucus which is produced due to estrogen is copious, and it is clear and watery, and it is elastic. So because it is elastic, it can be stretched between the fingers, and that is called as Spin-Barrett. Okay, there is increased water and electrolyte content also in the cervical mucus, and there is decreased protein content is seen in the cervical mucus. You see increased water and electrolyte content, and there is decreased protein content in the cervical mucus. So if you dry this and if you see it in the microscope, then you will see the presence of fern like pattern. Okay, then if you see the lipid profile, it protects the female from coronary artery diseases. So thus it increases the HDL and decreases the LDL. Then it causes closure of epiphysis, and as a result, after menstruation, the females do not grow in height. Then procoagulant, that means they don't grow massively. Okay, growth is a little decreased. Then procoagulant, this is a procoagulant, and thus it inhibits the fibrinolysis. So these are the actions of estrogen. Then once you have learned about the actions of estrogen, now we will see about the progesterone. If you see progesterone, in the progesterone, the natural progesterone is C21 compounds. The natural progesterone includes C21 compounds, and we have synthetic progesterone which contains C19 compounds. Okay, natural progesterone is C21 compound and synthetic progesterone is C19 compound. This natural progesterone is obtained from corpus luteum and placenta, whereas synthetic progesterone is the progesterone is obtained from corpus luteum and placenta. Okay, this progesterone is also most commonly, it is also in bound form, and it is bound to albumin and cortisol binding globulin. Okay, what are the actions of progesterone? The progesterone actions are, it acts on the uterus, and it has secretory effect on uterus endometrium, and it helps in growth of uterus in pregnancy, and it also causes smooth muscle relaxation in pregnancy so that the uterus can grow. Okay, and it causes salt and water retention. The effect on lipids is exactly opposite to that of estrogen, so it decreases HDL and decreases triglycerides and increases LDL effect. It is thermogenic, and as a result it increases the basal body temperature by 0.2 to 0.5 degrees Celsius. Then if you see its action on cervix, it produces thick tenacious cervical mucus. It produces scanty less the cervical mucus, which is thick tenacious cervical mucus, is produced due to progesterone. It does not have stretchability. Okay, that is, it produces fractures on the stretching called as TAC. It has increased protein content and less water and electrolytes. So it's exactly opposite to that of cervical mucus, which is seen in estrogen dominance. So if you dry it, on drying and on seeing microscope, you won't see any fern pattern. So fern pattern is lost in this progesterone. Okay, then we have in the vagina. In the vagina, mainly the intermediate cells will predominate in the vagina, and it has low karyopyknotic index. Here in vagina, intermediate cells will predominate, and one will have low karyopyknotic index is seen in vagina. Then if you see in fallopian tube, you will see there is decreased motility and increased secretions are seen in fallopian tube. There is decreased motility and increased secretions are seen. Okay, so this is about the progesterone. Then if you see, we have something called as, in the progesterone, important thing is presence of Arrest-Stella reaction. In Arrest-Stella reaction, the decidua floats on the water. Okay, this is also under the effect of progesterone. Then the next hormone which is important is human placental lactogen. So in the human placental lactogen, here we have lipolysis occurs in human placental lactogen causes lipolysis. It is actually an anti-insulin hormone. Because it is anti-insulin hormone and inhibits insulin, so it precipitates diabetes mellitus. And this hormone, this is very important, this hormone starts from 24 weeks and becomes maximum at term and peaks at 36 weeks. It starts from 24 weeks, becomes maximum at term and peaks at 36 weeks. Then we have next hormone, which is HCG. Okay, that is human chorionic gonadotropin. So this HCG has two subunits. We have alpha subunit and we have beta subunit. Okay, alpha subunit is non-specific and beta subunit is specific. Alpha subunit is non-specific and it is similar to LH, FSH and alpha subunit of alpha subunit. Alpha subunit of LH, FSH and TSH have similarity with alpha subunit of HCG, and beta subunit is most specific. And if you see this beta HCG has high carbohydrate content. It has highest carbohydrate content, and it is a glycoprotein. This HCG is a glycoprotein and it is synthesized from syncytial trophoblasts. So which cell will synthesize this? Syncytial trophoblast synthesizes the beta HCG. Then this beta HCG is detected in urine and serum also. It is detected in urine and serum as early as day 8 after fertilization. By day 8 after fertilization, it is detected in urine and serum. Okay. So when is it synthesized? It is synthesized from syncytial trophoblast at day 8. It is syncytial trophoblast. It is synthesized from syncytial trophoblast at day 8. Then this question has been asked. If you were asked about the best test for detecting this beta HCG, it is fluoroimmunoassay followed by radioimmunoassay. First best test is fluoroimmunoassay and this is followed by radioimmunoassay. Then you have urinary pregnancy test. In the urinary pregnancy test we have ELISA, but the best test is fluoroimmunoassay. Then if you see beta HCG, it is maximum. It becomes maximum at 10 weeks, that is around 1 lakh international units, and begins to fall and then it plateaus. It becomes maximum at 10 weeks and begins to form and then it plateaus. The gene for beta subunit is on chromosome 19. Okay, the gene for beta subunit is on chromosome 19. Beta subunit resembles the beta subunit of LH. That is, it differs by only 18 amino acids. And one more thing, this beta HCG will double every 48 hours. Once in every 48 hours it doubles. What is the function of beta HCG? Function of beta HCG is maintenance of corpus luteum. It helps in immunosuppression and prevents the fetal rejection. This beta HCG also activates the testosterone secretion from the fetal testis. Now, there are conditions where beta HCG is increased and there are conditions where beta HCG is decreased. Beta HCG is increased in conditions like multiple pregnancy, Rh isoimmunization and Down syndrome, choriocarcinoma and hydatidiform mole. It is increased in multiple pregnancy because there are 2 fetuses, so produced beta HCG is more, and in choriocarcinoma because of presence of in choriocarcinoma and HCG, hydatidiform mole, the beta HCG levels are increased. Okay, then in which conditions where it is decreased? It is decreased in ectopic pregnancy, abortion and Edwards syndrome. It is decreased in ectopic pregnancy, abortion and Edwards syndrome. Then what is the critical value of beta HCG for the detection of beta HCG in transvaginal ultrasonography? That is 1500 international units. If beta HCG is 1500 international units, then we can detect it in under ultrasound. If beta HCG value, if beta HCG value is 6500 international units, then you can detect it on transabdominal ultrasonography. The critical value is at which value can we see gestational sac in utero is called as critical value. Okay, at which value of HCG can we see the gestational sac in utero? So we can see at 1500 international units, we can see at 1500 international units of HCG, you can see transvaginal ultrasonography. You can see the fetus in transvaginal ultrasonography. At 6500 international units of HCG, You can see the gestational sac in transabdominal ultrasonography. Then, if in any case, if the beta HCG is more than 1500 international units, okay, and in transvaginal ultrasonography you see no gestational sac, then suspect ectopic pregnancy. Okay, so if the HCG, that is one thing. Then second, if in beta HCG level is less than 1500 international units, and on transvaginal ultrasonography you will see the gestational sac, then it can be three things. One, that it can be ectopic, it can be non-viable intrauterine pregnancy, or it can be viable intrauterine pregnancy. It can be viable intrauterine pregnancy also. So if it's to differentiate it, what you should do is you should wait for 48 hours and you should check the beta HCG again. If there is more than 66% of increase in beta HCG, then it is definitely a viable pregnancy. If it is less than 66% of increase in beta HCG, then it is either ectopic or non-viable intrauterine pregnancy. Okay, next, what is the range of transvaginal ultrasonography to see gestational sac is when 1000 to 2000 international units at 1000 to 2000 international units of beta HCG, you can see gestational sac in transvaginal ultrasonography. Then the urinary pregnancy test, if you see, this urinary pregnancy test is a semi-quantitative test. So in this urinary pregnancy test, the minimum amount of HCG which is picked up is 10 to 20 international units per liter of HCG. Beta HCG can be picked up with the urinary pregnancy test. Then what is the quantitative serum test? The quantitative serum test will pick up 1 to 2 liter international units per liter of HCG. This quantitative serum test will pick up 1 to 2 international units per liter of HCG. Okay, so this is about beta HCG. So these are the different hormones which are important in pregnancy. Thank you guys for watching my lecture. In the next class we will learn about variations of placenta. Thank you.